The March 19 presidential elections will be Montenegro's first step towards ending the nightmare it is in, caused by irresponsible and malicious forces. Montenegro has sunk towards the bottom during this saga, and come close to the edge of self-destruction as a state and as an idea. John F. Kennedy said, "A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on." He said this 60 years ago, in February 1963, when the Cold War was at its height, and his country was in constant fear of nuclear war. At the time, the idea of American society, the idea of freedom, was in danger. Montenegro is not in danger of nuclear war, but just like Kennedy's America, the idea of Montenegro is in danger. Montenegro has achieved this idea with its renewed state independence, building a civil multi-ethnic society of tolerance and entering Euro-Atlantic integration. Over the past 2.5 years, this idea has been endangered. Endangered, but not destroyed. It has been preserved over the past 2.5 years by one institution, which protected that idea, the institution of the President of Montenegro. In order for Montenegro definitively to exit the zone that risks its independence, its European and Euro-Atlantic path, its valuable multi-ethnic and tolerant society, and to exit the zone that threatens its idea, it must confirm the legitimacy of the only institution that prevented this, the institution of the President of the Republic. This will be achieved when Milo Đukanović is re-elected as the President of Montenegro. In the first election round, the idea of discontinuity won one more vote in the Montenegro parliamentary elections on August 30, 2020. It was formulated as a platform to alter the politics of Milo Đukanović and the DPS. This idea was, in fact, a full termination of what Montenegro is. One vote more went to those who wanted a shift from the path to EU membership, to forces that did not want Montenegro in NATO. These were forces that placed the principle of nationalism above multi-ethnic, religious and civic principles. This was the idea of the self-destruction of Montenegro in each of its key segments: identity, state, political, economic and developmental. This idea did not originate in Montenegro. It is neither local, nor fully imposed. A deep-rooted sentiment for its realization exists among some of the citizens who won one vote more in August 2020. This idea is still present in political Montenegro, and will be present at the March 19 presidential elections. Milo Đukanović's candidacy for the new presidential mandate is a defense against the self-destruction of Montenegro. Henry Kissinger said that the task of the leader is to get his people from where they are to where they have not been. Milo Đukanović led the citizens of Montenegro to places where they had not been before. He led them from a subordinate and unequal part of a federation to an independent state, from an ideologically, nationally and religiously divided society to a society of political, ethnic and religious tolerance. From a country and region that caused conflicts, to NATO. From a disordered and unintegrated state and society, to the European Union. From poverty and the dependent mentality to a developing and dynamic economy. Opponents want to return Montenegro and its citizens to those places they once were. This means the negation and self-annihilation of Montenegro. We must defend Montenegro from this. The only possible defense against the idea of the self-destruction of Montenegro over the past 2.5 years has been the consistent, patient and persistent use of the power of the institution of the President of the state. Anything else would have meant agreeing to abandon the model of European democracy, which Montenegro had already adopted. It would have signified that the defenders of the idea of Montenegro were complicit in an attempt to destroy it. As the President of Montenegro, Milo Đukanović used the power of that institution to prevent and slow down the dissolution of the democratic order. In Montenegro, but also among Western politicians and the media, expectations were fabricated that the DPS and Đukanović would obstruct the transfer of power at parliamentary and governmental levels. There was even fear they would take tanks to the streets. Đukanović and the DPS, however, recognized the election result during the election night of August 2020. There is no influential factor, particularly in the West, which was not surprised by the peaceful transfer of power in Montenegro, stated Vladimir Bilčik, Tonino Picula, Matthew Palmer, and many others. Everyone praised Montenegro for that, marking it as an example in the region. What else did they expect from a democratic state? From his institutional position of the head of state, Milo Đukanović did not obstruct political processes, he accelerated them. Because it was his constitutional obligation and duty as a statesman, in vain. A saying from ancient Rome says, "Anyone can hold the helm when the sea is calm." When meeting the opposition front, which won a narrow majority in the parliament in 2020, Đukanović also faced the personal characteristics of